The Chevy 292 Inline-6 has become one of the most talked about engines on the internet. Some say GM tried to bury it, and others claim it was simply too good to survive. Built like a tank and torquey enough to outmuscle Chevy's own V8s, the 292 didn't just hold its own, it quietly embarrassed the competition. So why did GM stop pushing an engine that could out-torque its own V8s? In this video, we'll explore how the 292s was born, how it defied expectations, and why its viral comeback has car lovers questioning everything they thought they knew. Back in the early 1960s, Chevrolet needed a workhorse, something that could handle rough terrain, big loads, and long hours without choking on fuel or shaking itself apart. That's where the turbo-thrift Inline-6 family came in. Introduced in 1962, this line included the 194, 230, 250, and eventually the beast of them all, the 292 cubic inch engine. It was purpose-built for the torque-heavy, commercial use, especially in pickup trucks and utility vehicles. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just built to last, it was overbuilt. The 292 stood out from its siblings in more ways than one. It featured a tall deck block, making it physically larger and stronger than the 194 or 250. It had a unique motor mount position, offset by an inch forward compared to the others, which made it impossible to swap in casually. And that's not even the juicy part. The 292 had 7 main bearings, which was a big deal back then. That kind of crankshaft support meant you could push it hard, really hard, without worrying about internal failure. That same crankshaft was forged steel, not cast iron, which added another layer of durability and made it a favorite among enthusiasts. Chevy installed it in CK series trucks, school buses, and large delivery vans. And because of its simple yet rugged design, it could go hundreds of thousands of miles with minimal maintenance, something fleet managers absolutely loved. The engine stayed in production in the US until the late 1980s before its production was halted. Let's now dig into the raw numbers that had GM executives sweating. On paper, the Chevy 292 Inline-6 didn't scream muscle. Its factory rating sat at around 165 horsepower. But it was the torque, 260 pound-feet at low RPM, that made it a silent killer. This engine didn't need to rev high. It delivered grunt where it mattered most, down low. That meant better hauling, better throttle response under load, and smoother operation in the real world compared to some of Chevy's own small-block V8s. Many mechanics and truck owners back in the day noticed that their 292-powered trucks were pulling loads just as confidently as V8-equipped ones. Some even said the 292 felt stronger during uphill climbs or when hauling heavy cargo, especially in early CK series trucks. The low-end torque curve was so flat and predictable that drivers felt like they had way more power than the spec sheet suggested. And because the engine had that tall deck block and 7 main bearings, it didn't shake or rattle under stress. What really shocked the hot rodding world was how well the engine took to modifications. People figured the Inline-6 would top out at utility work, but tuners were soon installing turbo kits, dual carbs, and straight-piped exhausts. The engine responded like it was built for it. It didn't blow up. It didn't choke. It delivered consistent, usable power. And once owners discovered how smooth and balanced the crankshaft was, thanks to its 7 main bearings and longer stroke, they began throwing them into sleeper builds. Some even bored them out past 300 cubic inches and ran them at the drag strip. That's where the V8 comparisons really started to sting. Chevy had an engine that could tow, haul, and now race, all while lasting hundreds of thousands of miles. And it wasn't being advertised. It was being quietly tucked away. But if it was this good, why didn't Chevy push it harder? There's a theory that's been circulating through forums, garage talks, and now viral TikToks. Chevy didn't just phase out the 292, they buried it. According to longtime enthusiasts and some outspoken gearheads on YouTube, the 292 Inline-6 was simply too capable for its own good. The story goes like this. Chevy realized they had a problem. They built an engine that was reliable, durable, easy to modify, and strong enough to rival their own V8s in key areas. But that success clashed with GM's marketing strategy. By the late 60s and 70s, Chevy was going all in on the VE8 muscle image. Big blocks like the Theory 96 and 427 were stealing the spotlight. That left no room in the ad campaigns or the dealer lots for a quiet, torque-loaded straight six. There was no glamour in it, and most importantly, it didn't generate the same profit margins. V8s were more expensive, came with more premium trims, and could be sold to enthusiasts who wanted flash and numbers. So the 292 started slipping through the cracks. GM never officially banned the engine, but insiders and independent mechanics claim you could feel the slow fade. It got less exposure in catalogs, fewer updates, and limited availability in newer platforms. While the 250 Inline-6 continued in passenger cars into the 70s, the 292 was pushed almost exclusively into work trucks and commercial fleets, away from the public eye. And despite its reputation, GM never gave it a proper successor. It was like the engine existed, did its job too well, and was then put aside. This theory gained serious traction in the 2020s when people started comparing dyno results and real-world towing tests, showing that a mildly upgraded 292 could match or beat early 305 and 307 V8s. So was it actually banned? Maybe not in paperwork, but in marketing, in development, and in visibility. It certainly looked like it was quietly erased. Even after its quiet phase-out from US showrooms, the Chevy 292 wasn't done working. It stayed in production for Chevy and GMC trucks, vans, and utility vehicles until the early 1980s. You'd find it under the hood of C30 dualies, heavy-duty Suburbans, even some school buses. It was never flashy, but it was trusted. After GM stopped offering it domestically, the tooling and production moved south, specifically to Brazil and Argentina, where the engine kept powering vehicles like the Chevy Veraneo and D20 into the early 2000s. These international models still relied on that same tough 292 bottom end, slightly adapted for emissions, but still built for punishment. Back in the US, something strange started happening in garages. Builders, hot rodders, and off-roaders began rethinking the engine that GM had pushed into the background. With small block V8s rising in price and LS swaps getting more complicated, the 292 found a second life. Resto-mod projects began featuring the 292s in everything from 1950 Chevy pickups to 70s Blazers. Builders liked the simplicity. No electronics, no ECU headaches, just raw torque and a straight six rumble that turned heads. The aftermarket picked up on the hype too. Clifford Performance, Langdon Stovebolt, and a few smaller names now offer high-flow intake manifolds, header kits, and camshafts specifically for the 292. Head swaps and porting jobs can unlock even more power. And because the engine is still pretty available in junkyards and farm lots, parts are cheap and plentiful, especially when compared to modern crate motors. The straight six format also gives it an edge in weight distribution and engine bay space. Builders like how it sits back in the chassis for better handling, and the long block leaves room for custom plumbing or twin-carb setups. But that combination of balance, torque, and tunability is why the 292 has gone from a forgotten workhorse to a collector's item. Younger enthusiasts are starting to realize just how much was lost when GM shifted focus. The 250 Inline-6 and its 4.1-liter variants, while smoother and more common in sedans, never had the raw durability or torque profile of the 292. The 250 was lighter and a bit more refined for passenger use, but it didn't have the tall deck block, 7 main bearings, or forged steel crank. It was a good engine, but it wasn't a beast. That difference is what has the hot rod community and Resto-mod fans circling back to the 292. This resurgence taps into a broader trend, nostalgia mixed with practicality. People are craving machines they can understand and build themselves. The 292 offers just that. It's not a digital mess of sensors and locked ECUs. It's cast iron, big torque, and potential. That mix of mystery and mechanical simplicity is why it's blowing up online. The 292 wasn't a hit when it came out, but the internet is turning it into one. And now, people are asking why GM let it fade into obscurity in the first place. There you have it, the wild story of Chevy's 292 Inline-6. Did GM really try to bury it? You decide. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you've ever seen one of these beasts in action. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video. We've got even more hidden automotive gems coming your way.